All right, I have it on good authority.
That we're on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Jimmy Doane Show here, 4 o'clock, Friday. I suppose everybody's heading out to the beach, at least down here now, although Haley's probably on the beach, so maybe we'll miss the show, but they can watch it later.
Last few weeks at the beach, basically.
Yeah, that's going to be it. It was 90 today here, so it's. We started to go into the fall a little bit. We had in the heat summer part, we were at 96 and 78 at night. Now we're down to 89 or thereabouts during the day and 73 at night. So maybe we'll get a decent fall this year. Anyway, Jimmy Doane Show here with Counselor Curtis.
That's me.
And today's the 16th or
Yep.
17th. 16th is it?
Mm-hmm.
September 2016. We have a couple of things to talk about today. I thought I'm going to start off with kind of a little light note, although
Where's the closest sports bar?
It's kind of a light note.
And my phone comes on just automatically. Yeah, that's great. Okay, good. Spoiler. Anyway, this is kind of interesting. This is the virtual love on display at the annual Tokyo Game Show.
Right.
This is interesting because one of the things that's happened. Let me just read there should be a picture there of the attendance.
Oh yeah, you're right in the middle of it.
Okay, right in the middle of the attendance, and of course these girls are holding the smartphones, and they can show you how to do the games. And
I thought you got to interact with them.
No, that was in the comments.
Okay.
But one of the things you have to realize is that they were talking about. I want to read some of the stuff here that's really hilarious. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that sexual adventures, if you want to call it that, have been for for 30 years at least, starting with phone sex, for instance.
Right.
Then moving on to when they switched from beta to VCR because they held more longer tapes or something like that.
Okay.
You go down to a convention. I even would go to a ham radio convention. There's a guy with 1,000 of these VCR tapes. This is 25 years ago.
Okay, what about these
They're
things?
porn.
Yeah, I know, but you started off and you said sexual adventures like...
Oh, sexual adventures like...
These things,
yeah. Well, like this selling sex on has been one of the things that has advanced the technology. For instance,
it's a technology.
It drives the technology, and one of the things that you find is that when people are buying these VCRs, for instance, this is before CDs or DVDs or anything, and so the VCR sales go through the ceiling.
Well, the internet itself.
Again, we're moving on. Then we go up to then DVDs,
right?
And now, of course, the internet. And as I said before, you can download 40,000 vaginas in about 20 seconds. And in real life, and now they have the real life ones where you can kind of interact visually with the girls on there, and it costs you chips or whatever they cost, what you have to buy.
Right.
And usually they're headquartered out of the country, but there's they're like the YouTubers, only they're these girls.
Right.
And they make money, decent money by doing this stuff. So
sure,
it's advancing now. Of course, they're talking about gamers.
Yeah, well, what the fun part about this thing is that it advances the technology itself. Like you said, this opens up new windows to be used in different ways because people are having fun out there.
Well, again, yes, exactly right. And the interesting part of this, it seems to me, is how much, I won't call it the porn, but the sexual innuendo, whatever, industry has progressed, is at the forefront of a lot of these advances.
Right, that's what I'm saying is that what happens is because people want to do it, they go make the technology, and then we all get to use the technology.
Right. And so what I find interesting about this, they said the game geeks with a heart for digital romance have something to celebrate, as sensual, soft-spoken cyber women are blurring the line between reality and fantasy at the Tokyo Game Show. They're calling these games, of course. Virtual reality took center stage at the annual exhibition on Thursday, with Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE, showcasing the PlayStation VR. And we have a shot there of the gamers, the gamers doing the VR stuff. Of course, it's guns and all that kind of stuff, but they're using the Oculus Rift kind of things to move around the. And this is different from just shooting at a screen. Obviously, you're in it. And so they have showcasing the much anticipated head-mounted display, which debuts next month. But, okay. Dozens of software titles for the device are in the pipeline, allowing players to fly like an eagle. But mostly, it's a lot of it, as you can see from the girls here that are touting this stuff. A lot of it has to do with sex. And one of the things that
well, for now, I mean, that's, and let me be clear. When I say we get to use the technology after that, I don't mean for porn. I mean for other stuff,
Right.
like surgery or something.
exactly
Real.
That's right. It brings the cost down.
Right.
As more and more people do this kind of stuff, as the software titles multiply, and people start to see some real uses for some of this stuff. Exactly right. Anyway, gamers can also indulge in fantasy by flirting with virtual females, thanks to the, flirting with the virtual females, thanks to the technology and so forth. Among such offerings is Summer Lesson, which puts the user in the company of a soft-spoken yet chatty beauty. One thing we cared about most for Summer Lesson, says the creator, was to create a sense that the character is truly there. And he was one of the things. So it's like an Oculus Rift thing. We've seen, I forget what it is, we've seen some science fiction shows where they have you walk into the room and there's the hologram of the girl or something like that. A couple of science fiction movies. But it does not include interesting male characters.
Why would you want any?
Well,
guys?
again, I don't know if you're gay, I suppose. Anyway, it's going to hit the store shelves in 13 markets, and it'll carry a price tag of $3.99. One of the things that I find interesting here, the impact of the show is diluted by the absence of Nintendo, which has ridden the wave of mobile gaming phenomenon, Pokemon Go, and Microsoft. Nintendo has stayed away from the event because it charges fees. That's the Tokyo show. Officials at Kyoto-based Nintendo say it has technological research programs for virtual reality, but they've also voiced concerns about the technology's effects, including impact on health from long hours of playing. Now, if you've seen that South Park one where they showed the guy in one of the gamers in there and he was beating everybody, he was a big fat guy with and obviously never got out. But one of the things that they did say here, and I thought I had it underlined somewhere, they were worried that that this kind of stuff will stop people from going out. In other words, they'll go into their virtual reality and not go out and meet real people. Well, I got news for you. Geeky nerd people, they don't meet them anyway. I mean, this is it. This is what they're waiting for. The simple fact is they wouldn't be doing these gamey things if they were out, if they were out with some fox at a nightclub or something.
Right.
These are the people that don't date. These are the 40-year-old virgins. I mean, and so now they get to go in anonymously. And so
and you will, I'm sure they will find a way to have it interactive. So that you are meeting some other person. They're an avatar.
Well, they already do that in the multiplayer games.
Right.
I mean, yeah, exactly. They do that already. And and of course, the women can go in there. They can assume any avatar they want. I suppose it'd be kind of interesting what's in it for the different avatar type people. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how that's going to work out in the sex thing. Of course, what they're waiting for, obviously, is not the virtual sex part, but the part where you actually hitch up, so to speak, and have the actual...
The game will have a little prompt at the end, did you like this experience? Would you like to talk to Janice?
Yeah, right,
kind of a thing.
See if she liked it too.
That's right.
Yeah, whatever. So anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting that this is another level in an advancement of the technology based on the pretty girls' sex cells, as they say, always.
Which is nice.
Coming soon to a porn store near you, over the internet. Oops, that's okay.
Okay, and
we're back. Jimmy Doane Show here with Counselor Curtis.
That's me.
Good to see you. If you have any legal questions, he might be able to at least get.
I can make something up on the fly.
Make something on the fly. That's
It'll
right.
sound legal.
That's it. It'll use ipso facto.
That's right. I'll use some Latin words.
Hell yes, that's right. Summum domini est monaco. The interesting thing again, what we're just talking about is this is the private sector that are doing the gamers, for instance, and there's vast competition. Here's a more salient competition that has arisen, and I was reading this article. It's rather extensive, but we'll talk about it. It's the rocket competition. The rocket competition is, shall we say, heating up. SpaceX, which I think is Bezos.
I can't remember which.
Good reason to get back to the launch pad as soon as possible. At least 10 rocket companies are fighting for satellite customers, and there could be more on the way. Now, you know what we say about competition. You get better value for the money.
Kill them. Oh, yeah, no.
usually the cost comes down, and the value or reliability and so forth goes up in a true competition,
right?
Without any government interference. Now there is some government interference. You're not just allowed yet to go out in your backyard and launch one of these babies off. But when you see the different types of
it's gonna be like you said, those 10, and you watch next month there'll be a government commission on rockets or something, and they'll be like, you know what? We've determined only 10 companies are technologically qualified to send rockets up, so they get all the bids from here on out. And
well, the problem
we expect a big check in the fall.
Yeah, well, they're gonna find some way to get some money out of it. Certainly they charge these launches. Some of them are from Virginia, and some of them from Cape Canaveral, which of course is government owned. So I mean, they charge a lease, I suppose.
Yeah, I guarantee you, there's a big fee there. But I'm just saying that if this business isn't heavily regulated, it's gonna be, because this is one where I can hear the guy testifying in front of Congress now. Well, what happens if the satellite starts to go up and comes down in a major city at 10,000 miles an hour? You know, kinetic energy involved.
Not worried about it, and I'll tell you why. One of the biggest rocket producers and has a fairly good track record of launching are the French. And they launched from French land.
That pretty much says it.
I mean,
if they can do it.
Well, and they've been doing it for years. I'll get to and they're one of the major players, and they've done a lot of this stuff, and they're building larger rockets and so forth. And of course, sometimes they launch from some South Sea island, French something down there, and it's way out of the place. But I'm saying that.
Right, well, that would be the thing to do.
The Indians, I mean, the Indians, they're getting into it in a big way. They are getting into it in a big way. And of course, the Russians have been shoved aside for cost reasons, I guess, on some of this stuff. But we've got all these companies that are bidding, and what their market is commercial satellites, not so much the space shuttle or any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I would think.
So, but there's all kinds of commercial people that want to put up their various satellites. So they leave the government out of that, from that type of a transaction. If you've got, it's up to the rocket, and this is why fortunately we don't have a TSA for rocket launches, because
that's what I'm saying.
No. It is. Think about it. What's his name? Bezos just recently, it was a $178 million satellite. I think it was a Japanese satellite, blowed up on the pad.
Right.
It was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it ended up costing him. It's going to cost him $200 million or something when it's all done. And of course the satellite didn't go up. They have to go build another one, I guess.
Well, it did cost them. I mean, that is to say, the rocket is no more.
Right.
They had a $200 million satellite.
Yeah.
They had a $500 million rocket, however much it cost.
Yeah.
They do not have one.
Neither of those.
That one, anyway.
That one. That's exactly right. Well, they're building them, of course, at a fairly decent pace. The point being that I expect the prices have already started to come down.
Well, did you see, and I think I mentioned this the other day off the show, the latest big blue rocket or whatever it is, blue space blue, I don't remember which.
It's bigger than the Saturn V.
It's ginormous. It's huge. I mean, that's big, and to me that's a milestone, because with that type of size. And of course, modern technology, they're surpassing the old NASA efforts at this point technologically, and these are private companies.
Right. Well, they are able to, and this is one of the things. What the goal here is to be able to call up one of these companies. Do you have space? In 3 months, I need to put this thing in.
$599.95.
Exactly right. Exactly, and there's competition. But the point is, you can go from, if you're going to put up the satellite, can you imagine? You sit down and you do your design these days, and as you know, the Voyager technology was from the 60s, and it's of course still works. But today, you could put up you put up little tiny things that don't weigh anything, and if you can put them up on 3 months' notice at this point, basically it's rent a rocket. and you can call around, and the prices, can be. And of course, what you're going to find is ride sharing. You're going to find ride sharing.
Sure.
But I thought this was kind of interesting. The SpaceX has 70 missions on its launch manifest.
Wow.
Already, they're backed up, worth more than $10 billion.
Which is nice.
Yeah, I think most of these companies will take what they can get. There's a lot of them. The bigger issue is going to be who can launch sooner. And to drive that point home, United Launch Alliance on Tuesday announced a new rapid launch service that lets customers blast a payload into space about 3 months after they place an order.
Wow.
I mean, you think about it. When we were putting satellites up, even fairly regularly,
Right.
it was years, for some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, like you just pointed out, though, that satellite was as big as this room or something, versus now we can put up one as big as one of these little cameras with twice the power.
Right.
And, so, the litter, that'll cut down on the litter up in space, and because everything will be micro. And also the real danger of the thing falling back to Earth, all you got to do is put one of those little pop out propellers on it, so
Right.
if once it hits air, it just starts flying around again.
Yeah.
And slows itself down.
Reward for return.
Yeah, exactly. Return for deposit.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, that brings on something else. This is really fantastic stuff, though. The company, this is the Boeing company, Lockheed Martin, has a joint venture, and of course, the big guy, they want to keep. They're being shoved out of this by the little nimble private companies to some extent. Additional hardware to its Decatur, Alabama rocket production line to accommodate new customers, and now will make customer-specific changes to rocket orders in the last few months of production so that buyers can come to the launch site with shorter lead time. The company said it has availability on its 2017 Atlas V launch vehicle. That's like a year from now.
Right.
A little more than a year. Up until the 1980s, of course, all the satellites were government run. But the French company, this is the one I was talking about before, and they're still in business, Ariane Space established a private launch business in 1980. And they've been,
Really?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that old. 35 years ago.
Yeah, that's wow.
That's wow. So anyway, the industry has mushroomed behind billions of dollars invested by legacy aerospace giants.
Actual investment
From Martin and the other people that have done some of the construction for the earlier rockets and so
Right.
forth. They call them the legacy ones, and angel investors, venture capital, as well as billionaires. Elon Musk, who's SpaceX,
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos is Blue Origin.
Blue Origin, that's what it is.
Blue Origin, right? That's Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson, Virgin Galactic.
Right.
So anyway, SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket can take satellites weighing, listen to this, take satellites weighing up to 50,000 pounds to low Earth orbit.
Wow.
And low Earth orbit's where the space station is.
Yeah, 250 miles up.
Is it that? I thought it was a little more than that, but anyway, it's that's low Earth orbit. 50,000 pounds. You think it. Look at the grapefruit that we sent up in 1962 or 3 or whatever it was, and Sputnik. I don't know what. All that at 10 pounds or whatever it was. You look at this. This is
Can launch a freaking
50,000 pounds. You could launch a
motorhome.
One of those 18-wheelers or something.
Right.
There were 2 of them. So anyway, as well as of course the high geosynchronous orbit. I don't think it's going to be 50,000 pounds to geosync, but because that's
25,000 miles out, right?
I think it's more than that. I think
Isn't it
it's
the same
43.
the circumference of the Earth out there?
Something like that. I'd have to. No, it's more. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, it's pretty far up. Places that can handle the middle of the market are small launch vehicles like Orbital's ATK Antares, which can take payloads of 17,000 into low Earth orbit, and the Delta IV Heavy, which can carry up to 62,000 pounds. That's a lot. And here's the deal. You talk about sharing. I can see these guys putting 200 or 300 satellites on these.
Well,
things.
it's like you just said. Once somebody gets it a replicatable, printable, let's say, satellite that you can download the plans for and print up a little square about this big, or a little cylinder that just rotates and spins and orients and does exactly it knows where it is, and it transmits and receives information, let's say. You could have 50,000 of them. You could, you could. It's like a cloud burst.
Right.
When it gets up there, and woo.
Well, they now have, of course, they have the CubeSats that they will launch. I forget how much they cost, but if you can build it in this like a 4x4x4 or 5x5x5 cube, and they have slots on the satellite that if you can get your cube authorized,
right,
say. And you pay whatever the part of it is. But I mean, the bottom line of that is that when you start to divvy it up like this, your particular satellite might cost $100 to get it up there. I mean, when you think about it,
yeah.
I mean, it might be $60 million a launch, but if they've got when they start to divide it up,
yeah,
it's pretty amazing. So let's see, 50,000, and then the Falcon 9 is in the same category as the Atlas V, manufactured by Eula. And the Japanese H-2A rocket, the main rocket for Japanese space exploration, has launched 30 times since its first flight 15 years ago, so that's twice a year. SpaceX's main competitor is this Arianespace. These guys have been doing it since 1980, whose Ariane 5 heavy lift vehicle can hoist 2 satellites at the same time. It has gone up 87 times with 4 failures, and the latest failure was 2002. So they've got a kind of a pretty good track record. Apparently they've increased the reliability of it, and that's going to be one of the things we're talking about here. But now a new international competitor is coming on. This is great stuff. The Indian Space Research Organization has developed a smaller rocket that took its first flight in 1993. If you can imagine, 20 years ago. Generally ferries satellites to low Earth orbit. It's mainly carried, of course, Indian government satellites, but it's done on a bunch of foreign satellites from countries such as Britain, Singapore, and the United States. They could be a major commercial player. Here we go again. This is like I don't know, car rental agencies or something. I mean, they're going to be a bunch of them, and you have them on speed dial. And I've got a 420 pounder that needs to go up by next Thursday.
I'm taking bids.
Yeah, I'm taking bids. That's right. Bezos-led Blue Origin unveiled Mondays of its new Glenn rocket that will be 23 feet in diameter and lift off with almost 4 million pounds of thrust. So he says it will come in 2 variants, a 270 tall foot. I mean, this is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Is that the big one? At 270 and a 3-stage, 313. That's a football field.
Yeah.
That's a football field.
Yeah.
You lay it down and it goes from goalpost to goalpost, and then some.
It's a big rocket.
That's big. So it will launch commercial satellites as flying and will be able to fly humans into space. The new adventuresome. They've got now. If you want to go into outer space, they actually have a way now that have you seen the balloon that will take you up to the edge of space? Yeah, no, it's like 75,000. That's got this gondola. I think it's been GoFunded or something like that. And you go up, and they've got some pretty big windows. It's all pressurized and everything. This giant balloon that takes you up to 100,000, 120,000 feet, which is beyond.
Didn't take me up.
No, chicken, and yeah. So, but I mean, the space tourism is getting to be a big thing. From the $20 million that what's his name paid to go up to the space station, or on the Russian thing, to 75,000 to at least go up for a 5-hour flight.
Yeah,
at the edge of space.
Like I said, I'll keep the fires burning here for you.
Okay. So anyway, clearly Lockheed and Boeing understand the importance. They cannot rely on U.S. government business. Here's the last sentence here. They have to diversify and increase their volume and become more competitive. And of course, what they're looking for is here. They're looking for the reliability. They want to make sure it doesn't blow up.
Well, and the big thing is the reusability. I mean,
I was just getting to that. This is going to be the big game changer. The move also is in response to a growing number of small satellites set to be launched to support services ranging from low-cost internet access to high-resolution Earth imaging. I mean, that's, you get something at low Earth orbit that has a, 50 jillion megapixel camera or something. You're getting, you're reading the license plates for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, the small rocket makers are dedicated to giving these tiny satellites a ride in space. We just talked about that. If you line up all the vehicles currently available worldwide that are about to be in, there's about 70 of them. Says we talked about that. SpaceX will continue to lead the market in low prices, especially if it's able to make good on its plan for reusability. by turning around and relaunching landed rockets, and they've already succeeded, experimentally at least. And they said that the starting price for the Falcon 9 rocket is $62 million, but they can cut that by 30% if they can recover. That's down to $40 million.
Well, they've successfully landed a couple of them on that barge at sea.
Right.
One of them recently bit it, but obviously they're going to get better and better at it.
Right.
And I don't know if those were the actual ones that they relaunched when they relaunched them, or if they used a brand new one.
Don't have a clue. Didn't follow up on that, but I will say that as you say, failures teach you as much as success. And so if you analyze the failures, very often you'll find maybe 9 or 10 things that you could have done differently. And of course, at least there's no human lives involved, like they found out about the foam on the Challenger or whatever it was, and that kind of stuff, or the frozen rings or something. On those things those are kind of expensive when you take 6 or 8 people along with it. Anyway, the bottom line is we're getting ready for a real space age. Maybe it's not going to be intergalactic or anything at this point, not probably in my lifetime, but this is exciting. Again, this is exciting stuff, as we've seen before with here on Earth with the really smart cars that are coming down. Not the smart car, but the ones that are really intelligent. But now think about what they're putting into space, the autonomous. And of course, you can always change it down here. As the satellites whiz over, you can send it.
Well, yeah, with today's technology, you can do a lot.
Well, it was 20 years ago that we, on the original Jimmy Doane podcast, wanted to put up a satellite that would play a series of Rolling Stones songs as it whizzed around.
Still do.
And we still want to do that. Now we can put them into we don't have to launch a CD or anything. We can put it into a RAM and just have it go up there and advertise. And that would be one of the cute things to do, would be to start your advertising that you could change. And so if Billy Bob's automobile showroom wants to put an ad on, we could time it so as this thing sails over that area, that ad blasts out. And who wouldn't want to watch that stuff? That'd be fun. I think there's commercial availability here that's it's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
Okay, done with that.
Okay.
And I'm going to ride on Lord later. I'm what my mojo working day.
And we're back.
And we're back. Jimmy Doane Show. This is Friday the 13th. No, Friday the 16th here in September 2016. Counselor Curtis and our legal advisor here, so I don't get in too much trouble. Fortunately, we're not regulated yet by the FCC, so we can curse if we have to. This is kind of the last thing I've got here, but no, I'm sorry, it's not. I got 2 more things. These are international things again. Obama lifts sanctions against the Ivory Coast.
Okay.
Citing progress. I think we have a map of the Ivory Coast there someplace.
I don't know. I'll look for it. Go
it's not on blue?
Let's see. Hold on. Let me get you to the computer cave, and then I'll look for it.
I didn't know where it was until I gosh, I wonder if I left it off of there and left it on my desktop. If you can't find it on blue, huh? It would be right there. It would say Ivory Coast or Ivory map of Africa, something like that.
Don't see it.
Okay, well then that's too bad. I really because I.
Oh wait, Africa map.
Yeah. What do we got?
Hold on. Oops. It's gigantic. It's as big as Africa.
Am I in the way of?
No, it's in the way of everything at this point.
Oh, is that right? It's too huge.
Yeah, it's
gigantic. You can't.
Hold on, I can get. I'm making it smaller right now as we speak. So this is a. Okay, there
Got
it
it?
is. Yeah.
Can you see the Ivory Coast?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize where it was. It's interesting. When you
Well, it hadn't been called that for very long, has it?
Côte d'Ivoire.
Okay.
French colonized it. This was during the great imperialist rush when all the Europeans were trying to get a a spot down there, and that's why they speak different languages in so many of those different countries, because it was the French and the Brits and the Germans that all wanted a piece. The Belgians got the Belgian Congo and blah blah blah. So it was the time to do all that stuff, and of course they finally got booted out with good reason. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. But I didn't realize this, but if you look there, I didn't realize all those little dorpy countries are there. Do you see some of those countries? I've never even heard of them before.
No.
Huh?
Well, I mean, like I said, some of these just got new names not too long ago. But let's see.
There was one that I looked up there, and it looks to be like maybe 1,000 miles long and 100 miles wide, and it runs up on both sides of a river up there north of the Ivory Coast. But a lot of these places are real skinny. It's like condos on the beach. They're real skinny, but they got a little beachfront. And but some of those places are minuscule. What happened was, when I was looking for the map of Côte d'Ivoire, that's when I started. I spent another hour there dorking around to see what these other countries were, because
Togo, you mean, and
yeah,
Benin, or the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau.
yeah.
Sure, they're there. There they are.
I mean, it's just, and some of them, when you go to do the WikiLeaks, or well, not WikiLeaks, when you go to look on,
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia, you find out they're kind of interesting countries in a lot of respects. I'm not sure you don't want to live there yet. Anyway, so he lifted the sanctions. I didn't even realize we had sanctions. They had been lifted decade-old sanctions against Ivory Coast, the world's biggest cocoa producer. I remember when I first learned about futures trading, they would always, this was before there were any sanctions, they would always investigate the cocoa production in the Ivory Coast, because that was the main supplier for chocolate. And citing a successful, anyway, the point is that George Bush, I think, put the sanctions on, I guess, human rights, something or another, I don't know exactly, but they had a successful presidential election last year, and apparently now they've seen the error of their former ways, and so now they are now tackling illegal trafficking of arms and natural resources. Well, this 12 years old arms embargo and asset freezes and travel bans against 6 individuals by the UN Security Council. So the point is that now they've lifted the embargo on arms. So we now get to, what we get to do is to give them some money so they can buy some American arms. I guess that's what it is. That's the thing. I thought the former president, his name is Gagaboo or something like that. He's on trial before the International Criminal Court. But the new guy is taking appropriate steps to see if they can. And he was democratically elected. 5 years after the Civil War presidential election, the Ivory Coast has been reborn as one of Africa's economic stars and held up as a model of post-conflict reconstruction.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. The way when they ousted this guy before, it was with French. The French came in there and put the Foreign Legion or whatever to help this guy. They're setting up their puppet guys. What I'm saying. And the rebels and the current government, they continue to kind of spit at each other or something. And of course, what they find is, and this is the real problem why it might not last, is because what the real problems, and have been on almost all the times, in every time a country has gone, quote, independent or something, is what do you do with the land? And how do you divide it up? And how do you do private property? Because there hasn't been any, that kind of stuff. And that's a conundrum, I think, that if they don't solve it pretty quickly, if they don't have something like the Homestead Act, then it could be, and of course, I don't know how many tribes there are in that arena.
More than one.
More than one. Well, I had pulled down there was what was it? It was not Equatorial Guinea. There's an island in the Pacific that is its own nation. I forget what it is. It has 1,000 languages and 1,000 tribes on it. It's not that big. So anyway, they had a picture of Tony Robbins among these guys. I and he's 7 feet
Running
tall.
for his life.
No. Although they had,
Yeah.
They said that they did some research on this island. Yeah, well, they did. They didn't have it. I didn't see any of that. But what was interesting was they did some research and said these people have been here for 50,000 years. They were stunned and amazed. When they started doing anthropological stuff and DNA and all that kind of stuff. Somehow they said they'd been there for 50. And of course, they're standing there. They don't have the actual bones in their nose or anything, but they're standing there with bows and arrows and the sling sticks.
Right.
And I'm sitting there thinking, 50,000 years and you haven't gotten past a flying stick? I mean...
As you know, there was a big... Something happened about 10,000 years ago.
Again,
that
it's just
changed everything.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, that's kind of a digression on this stuff. But when you see the tribes, of course, in Africa are rather numerous. And so if you do the land grab thing, you got to wonder, somebody might complain. And
Well, like you said, it's going to be messy.
Yes.
But I think at some point, either you do that or somebody's controlling the land at pretty much all times.
Right. Well, usually it's those horrible Mugabe type people that are totally they're
organize a
raping the
militia,
country.
Yeah.
They're just raping the country, and then they get rid of him after. Some of those guys have been there 30 years. Just a horrible dictator. Can you imagine? They're longer than Hitler. They're 10 times longer than Hitler was in power, for God's sake.
Well, they'll come along a lot in the next few decades. Because they're going to get power real fast here. All sorts of innovative methods have come about for people to get power, and with power they're going to get communications.
That's the big deal. Is if they all get phones,
Right.
cell phones, and start to do that sort of
And
thing.
there's what we were looking at one country not too long ago that was it Kenya that's using now phone money. Money on the phone, basically, like a little Starbucks card on your phone for a large percentage of their transactions, and they're just totally skipping several
banks?
different. Yeah,
Okay, so that's interesting. Well, again, once you have communications like that, you can use it for good or evil. But at least you can you
most people are going to use it for good.
I think so.
People do better through cooperation.
They do.
The only evil really rears its ugly head when, like you said, there's a dispute over who's going to get what resources, and two different groups who have a contact at our arms dealers,
Right.
get a hold of the same piece of property.
Yeah,
And then there's
it's
this
too bad
shootout.
because it's too bad that the use of violence, the use of force, sometimes is cheap operation, and that's why they do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you ride into town, and you rob the bank of its gold or whatever in the old Western days, you didn't have to work for it.
Right. Well, the cost though is in lives. You lose your brother or your bandmate there or whatever, your posseman, and so there's definitely costs there. It's a big gamble.
I was looking the other day. Yeah, again, but at that time, these people think that it's less expensive to go in and are willing to take the risk. And I thought it was interesting that in the 30s here in this country, none of those gangs lasted very long. They got Bonnie and Clyde are shot up in 2 or 3 years or something.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, so that's the risk. I guess that's what happens with young people. They think they're not going to ever die, invincible. And of course, I'm immortal so far.
There you go.
So 74 years.
As far as I know.
I just realized I have been alive 1/3 as long as this country is old.
Oh, how about that?
1/3 of the time that this country has existed, I have been alive. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That's a pretty decent thing. Anyway, I got one more thing to do.
Okay. Oops. Okay, we're back.
We're back. Okay, good deal. The Jimmy Doane Show here. Jimmy Doane and Counselor Curtis.
Hello.
Usually try and get on here about 4 o'clock each day. Might not do so much on the weekends. This is a game weekend.
Yeah.
And so we might skip tomorrow.
We got a party.
We have a party. That's right. We definitely have a party tomorrow. Last one for a while. And so we might skip tomorrow, but see if we can get back Sunday anyway, depending on if we're still sober. So anyway, this is an update on our friends down in Venezuela.
Uh-huh.
This is a Venezuela. This is a post Hugo update, and and this is a place called Port Lamar, Venezuela.
Okay.
Left increasingly isolated by a crushing political and economic crisis, Venezuela will seek the support of old friends when it hosts a summit of the non-aligned movement this weekend. So apparently they are going to get the leaders from a 120 nation group. This founded more than 50 years ago. I think it was founded right before or right during World War II.
Okay.
These are the neutral countries, and they didn't want to be involved in the World War, so they called themselves the non-aligned 120 nation group. Amid the Cold War, excuse me, it says here. Mm-hmm. And will gather Saturday and Sunday on the Caribbean island, whatever, of Margarita, which is a good name, where Venezuela will take over the movement's rotating presidency from Iran. This is one of those things where, as in the UN, you have these rotating presidencies on these various committees, and that's how some of the UN representatives from the most oppressive countries you can possibly imagine get to be chairman of the Human Rights Committee or something along those.
Right.
I mean, that's happened on more than one occasion when you have, basically criminal countries and their representative is the head of the human rights or whatever those other organizations. Just a hoot, because it's rotating, and they can't get him out of there. So what he's going to do. This is Maduro, of course, is holding this thing together, and he's hoping that this is going to. Nothing to see there on the mainland, but here we are on the island paradise, whatever it is. We've rounded up all the miscreants. We got rid of all of them, and all of you come in here and I'll host this. Well, of course, they're totally broke. I mean, they're just. You got to ask yourself, it's going to cost $1 million, $2 million or something for this thing, for this 2-day affair, caviar and champagne. I will make the most of the presidency of the movement to continue speaking out against pro-imperialist right. Okay, the pro-imperialists like us, like the United States. Said the leftist leader, who accuses his opponents always of plotting a coup against him with the great Satan U.S. backing. So besides moral and rhetorical support, Venezuela, an OPEC member and home to the world's largest proven reserves, will notably be seeking backing for its campaign to slash abundant global crude production in a bid to raise prices. Good luck.
Yeah. There's going to be a coup.
Yeah, right. But I mean, he's going to get together with the other 8 or however many OPEC countries there are and say, "Hey, folks, I tell you what we'd like you to do is to raise your prices, okay?
That's right. Everybody join hands.
Everybody join hands, and we're going to raise prices today."
Yeah. Well, the Saudis are going to jump at that.
Yeah, you bet. Well, one of the things that I find interesting in Adam Smith's original, I'm going to paraphrase this, in the Wealth of Nations, they talk about this, about the collusion of companies. And he says the collusion never lasts more than the time it takes for the leaders to get back to their country and figure out a way around the agreement that they just signed.
Well, of course.
That mean, they've all agreed to do something in the room, shake hands on it,
right?
And of course they all go back and say, "Those suckers, we're not going to abide by it." So, and that's why he said that the competition is that kind of stuff. You don't have to worry about the government.
Right.
The only time you have to worry about the government is when they protect the monopoly at the point of a gun.
Right.
So anyway, I love this. They on Wednesday there's another alignment group down there called Mercura. I don't know what they are. This is one-time allies. Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay, and Uruguay announced they had stripped Venezuela of the rotating presidency of Mercosur. I guess I don't know what that means. A South American regional trading bloc. A furious Venezuela said it refused to recognize the decision. So he refused to recognize the fact that he's not going to be president of this thing. What does that mean? He's going to pretend to be president?
That's right. That's what it means.
I mean, how do you refuse something like that? I'm laughing that
you get up there and you take the stage anyway. You have them turn the mic on.
Yeah.
You start presidenting.
So anyway, of course, obviously, it used to be, as the United States does now, we bribe people. They were bribing other countries with their oil, but now that's gone. And of course, it's not only the fact that the price of oil has tanked, but it's that they, ran the guys that knew how to run the refineries out of town.
Yeah,
that was a big deal. Once burned, twice shy, whatever the hell it is. I mean, you had, Enron, and you had not Enron, but Esso and Shell and all these companies that were down there, and they said, "Get out of town. We're keeping your stuff. Well, they're not rushing back in there yet
No.
to actually run the things with their experts. So anyway, of course, obviously, since it can't use its oil to bribe people, and the people are basically starving, as you can see, the one of the pictures I brought was the standing in line for food there, which is I think is somewhere near where this thing's going to be. Anyway, political analyst, this guy, he's a South American type political analyst, said it would be hard for Maduro to pull off his mission for the summit to make people think that there's nothing happening here. Well, he's putting it over on this island so that there won't be any
mass rioting.
I mean, that's right. Seeking to combat the long lines that have become a daily reality for the Venezuelans, Maduro has put the army in charge of food distribution. We chatted about that before. But the shortages have triggered looting, riots, and violent crime. As people, what are they going to do? Starve?
I thought he fixed this a few weeks ago when he extended the daylight hours and the minimum wage.
Right, he doubled the minimum wage, and I think he chopped down the amount of hours you had to work per week or something, and then he opened up those two gates, one to Colombia and one to Brazil, so that people could hoof it over there. And I don't know what they're going to use for money, but it's certainly not going to be the Bolivar or whatever they use down there in Venezuela. I mean, you take over a truckload of those and get yourself a loaf of bread. So yeah, it's interesting. Of course, what this guy says is what Maduro is really seeking is an expensive photo op that seeks to hide the grave internal crisis and international isolation. Of course, they don't know how many are going to attend yet. It'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But it was found. This thing that they're going to do was founded in 1961, and obviously this is like the UN. It's tits on a bull. I mean, what are the people going to do? They're going to sit around. They're going to party. They're going to be all dressed up, bring their wives and mistresses and all this other stuff.
Well, like you said, it's a costume party.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have a fancy dress and a fancy hat, and it's going to be where the leaders
walkway, the red
bring out the
carpet.
caviar and champagne. And put all our names on a plaque.
Yep, again, that's right.
Attendee to the...
Yeah, Margarita Island has been the seat of anti-government protests. Dozens of people were arrested there earlier this month after Maduro was greeted by pot-banging demonstrators during a visit. Apparently that's a new way to do stuff. So they arrested 1,500. The government has deployed more than 14,000 police and soldiers in the region to contain any unrest. So you will not disrupt my show. 14,000 soldiers and police.
Well, we'll see what happens when he runs out of money to pay them.
Exactly. So anyway, that's about it for me. And you got anything particular?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we can end early then.
All right.
Is it early? Yes.
A little bit.
A little bit. Well, thank you for watching. Please. I noticed when I pulled up my YouTube on my Roku that yesterday's vidcast was on the trending or something like that. So now it might have been because I was the one who signed on. They might have figured out.
Yeah, it's got an algorithm that knows what you watch.
This is what you selected specially for you. And I noticed we had like 2 views and so forth. So we have 3 now because I watched it. But anyway, we'll get some more. But I did want to mention we're going to have to put this on iTunes or Stitcher or something because that's where a lot of people go.
Yeah, well, we will. We'll get it distributed around a little bit as soon as we get a little bit smoother here with the transitions. As you can see, it's me, not exactly the engineer,
right,
in control here,
and trying to do 2 things at once: listen to me, and
formulate a response, and monitor the thing. But I talked to engineer Eric, and you never know; he could be helping us out before too long. So.
Okay, good. Well, that would help. We can get him cranked up. The problem is he tends to be a little directorish.
A little Hollywood director.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a little, not much room for argument when he wants to do something. You guys are ruining it. So we don't need that. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and we had fun.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Say probably not tomorrow.
Yeah.
But Sunday possibly. We'll let you know.
Yep. All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk at you.
Mm-hmm.